From Mississippi, the hospitality state, it's Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund Live. With your host, Matt Boyle from Breitbart.com.
Welcome back to the Hattiesburg Convention Center in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, deep in the heart of the Pine Belt, Chris McDaniel country, and it's Chris McDaniel Victory Headquarters. I'm Kevin Broughton from the Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. I'm joined by Matt Boyle, a reporter for Breitbart News, and our organizations are jointly sponsoring this live stream. We appreciate your being here. Still a little early. We don't have any election results coming in yet. We expect them to start trickling in. Matt, you alluded to this in our last segment. This really is, I've gotten almost tired of hearing this from all the reporters I have to deal with, but this really is kind of ground zero for the Republican establishment versus the grassroots. How big is this race nationally, and what other ones might come close to equaling?
Well, if you look at over the past few months, we've seen a couple of establishment wins, a couple of Tea Party wins, and I think the big surprise of the year has really been the Cantor defeat by Dave Bratt, grassroots conservative there. And then you look around the rest of the country, you've seen Ben Sass beat Mitch McConnell-backed Shane Osborne.
Right.
Then you've seen a couple of other conservative victories in different House races around the country. But then, of course, you've got the establishment victories, where people like John Cornyn, Mitch McConnell, and John Boehner, and then in addition to that, you had Tom Tillis over in North Carolina,
right?
And then you had Karen Handel went down over in Georgia.
Also, today we got the results from a special general election. Kirk Clausen in Florida 19, we endorsed him in the primary, and he pulled out the general election win. No surprise there, but another win for the grassroots.
Right, and so what we're seeing right now is that the grassroots and the establishment are really staking out their positions, but both have poured in everything into this state right here. Mississippi really is ground zero. I mean, both sides have put millions and millions of dollars into this fight. Tea Party Patriots, of course, has put up ads and fought on the legal grounds against the various actions of the Cochrane apparatus, and and obviously Breitbart has sent me here for quite some time. I'm looking forward to taking a little break after this.
Well, sure.
But anyway, I think that after this one shakes out, then we look towards there's other races like Louisiana is looking to shape up to be a potential Tea Party victory there with Colonel Rob Maness. And then, you look in Tennessee, there's a shot, I think, for Joe Carr, state rep there over Lamar Alexander. And then there's a few others.
And today in Oklahoma, T.W. Shannon and Lankford are locked up in that Senate nomination.
And that one's going down to the wire, too, there over in Oklahoma.
Could be Runoff City in about, I think they have the decency to stretch it out 2 months instead of 3 weeks.
Instead of 3 weeks, which is like just a dead heat right back into it. But and then also in addition to that, you've got Milton Wolf over in Kansas giving Pat Roberts a run for his money. Now look, the establishment is terrified right now.
Yeah.
The Washington D.C. establishment, the NRSC, the GOP establishment has literally been panicking. I talked to Ron Paul about this. That's his word. Ron Paul says the establishment is panicking as Senator McDaniel seems to be moving towards a potential victory tonight.
Right.
And they're literally running to places like the Wall Street Journal to tell them that there's not going to be any more surprises this year. This is it.
Right.
This is the end. This little McDaniel mishap wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
But that being said, these guys months ago were saying that Chris McDaniel doesn't stand a chance. Matt Bevin doesn't stand a chance. None of them do. All these wacko Tea Partiers don't. These wacko birds, they don't have a chance at all. And you know what? I think that the people around the country are saying no more. We don't like the Washington establishment. We want somebody who's going to stand up there and listen to us and not the lobbyists.
You mentioned some of the outside groups that have come in support of Senator Cochrane here. Chamber of Commerce being one, big amnesty advocate.
Right.
Bloomberg dumps $250,000, the gun-grabbing former mayor of New York.
Right, well, yeah, interestingly that Senator Cochrane claims to be pro-Second Amendment, yet it would take support, $250,000 from Michael Bloomberg, of all people. It's amazing, but anyway.
I know, and you wonder, if Senator Cochrane should eke out a win and then cruise in November, you wonder what some of these pro-amnesty groups are going to want in return for their money.
Well, of course. I mean, that's how it works in politics, right? Is that these guys make donations and then they expect something in return on the back end.
Yeah.
And that's why these guys in Washington are so terrified of people like Ted Cruz, like Mike Lee, like Rand Paul, and now potentially if they get some help tonight from Chris, if Chris McDaniel wins.
Yeah.
The reason why they're so scared of these guys is because they're shaking up business as usual. What they're doing is that that pay for play in politics doesn't work anymore. You can't buy Ted Cruz.
Right.
You can't do it. I mean, you can put as much money in there as you want to, but
Yeah.
he is not for sale.
Right.
And the same thing works for all this new generation of people that are really taking back the Republican Party with the intent of then using that taken back Republican Party to take back the country.
I want to focus on that here in the Magnolia State for just a minute. As a 20-year Mississippi Republican, I have a lot of respect for the Haley Barbers of the world who basically built this party from the ground up.
Right.
But the Barber family and the Barber machine and the establishment, they see this party as theirs. They see it as theirs. And so in that regard, I can kind of understand that they're not going to let it go without a fight. And I promise you, Matt, I never would have thought that I would have lived to see the day when Republican politicians in Mississippi are actively courting these Democrat votes and putting out get out the vote money and walking around money in places they have never really sought votes for before.
Right. Well, Senator Cochran and Haley Barber and Trent Lott, they deserve a lot of credit because what they did when Trent Lott and Thad Cochran were first elected to the House of Representatives in I believe it was 1972. 72. They were both elected the same year to the House. There was with one rare exception of a one-term Republican, there had never been a Republican elected in the 20th century to federal office from Mississippi.
Right.
And so now you have a new era where these Republicans are actually getting elected, and they did an amazing job building up the Republican Party in Mississippi. Yeah. And then Haley Barber came a little bit later and ran, of course, against in '84 for the Senate seat. He lost. Right. But these guys started building the Republican Party from the ground up, and they deserve an immense amount of credit for that. But what's happened is that Mississippi's grassroots values, the people of Mississippi have changed. They've gotten more conservative. They've gotten more anti-Washington over the years. And as this establishment, as these guys have become entrenched in the party that they built, exactly what you were saying, they think they own the party.
Right.
And it's not that way. It's the people out here, the voters, the citizenry owns the Republican Party, and they own the office that they're electing people into.
The brand of conservatism in Mississippi is definitely a populist brand, and when populist conservatism and K Street conservatism meet, I don't know who's going to win this one, but I know who's got numbers going forward.
Right. I think that, again, as we're waiting for returns, so I don't want to get it too ahead of ourselves tonight, but one thing that's massively clear throughout this entire election, no matter what happens tonight, no matter who wins tonight, the establishment in Mississippi is terrified because the grassroots conservatives are prepared, they're ready. The voters have shown that they're willing to stand up to the Washington establishment. They're willing to stand up to the Jackson establishment. An immense amount, an immense showing into this, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is. And again, I think starting probably maybe not tomorrow, but maybe day after tomorrow, you're going to see, I think, the Tea Party groups and the grassroots conservatives start to assert themselves a little bit more at like the county party level, where they can work in and maybe take over the mechanism at the street level, and then I think it will start to play itself out in earnest in the 2015 statewide elections next year.
Well, yeah, and that's actually something that I think that the Tea Party movement here in Mississippi has I was really impressed because I really didn't come down here and start getting really involved in covering this until a few months ago. But one of the things that I've found is that grassroots conservatives are getting involved in any way they can, whether that means getting them on a school board, into a local party spot. And the Tea Party movement, has a lot of raw local power in this state. There are several state senators who are backing State Senator Chris McDaniel's campaign, and that there is this raw grassroots power here. They can build on that, and they can moving forward. This political establishment is in danger of extinction.
Yeah, we're going to get one of those state senators on here in another segment or two. But as we go out, I want you to talk about the sort of, well, the dynamic that you've seen with these the grassroots folks really asserting themselves, because I think even with 2010, even with 2012, when you saw Republicans getting knocked off in primaries, everybody said, well, for instance, Mitch McConnell wasn't caught unawares with Matt Bevin.
Right.
But I honestly think the Cochran camp just really didn't give a whole lot of credence to this insurgent campaign of Chris McDaniel. I don't know how they managed to get caught flat-footed, but I think a week out from the June 3rd primary, they realized they were in trouble.
Right. Well, here's the thing, is that the mainstream media, and there's a lot of reporters around us here tonight, the mainstream media likes to push the narrative that the Tea Party movement is dead. And you know what? Maybe they haven't picked up as many big electoral wins as they have in previous years. We'll find out later tonight if they get one here. But one of the things that's become clear is that the Tea Party movement I would argue, is stronger than it's ever been. And the reason why is because they've learned the system, they've learned how to fight the establishment on their own terms, on their own playing field, and beat them. And they're winning these issue wars. I mean, there's no better issue to really illustrate how powerful the Tea Party is in Mississippi than Governor Bryant's less than 1 year full flip-flop on Common Core.
Right.
There was a time in the course of this campaign when Governor Phil Bryant was actively supporting, openly supporting Common Core and pushing forward with it. And all of a sudden now, he has felt the wrath of the people, and he has to say no. He has to say that he's going to kill it.
Big wake-up call for him, although he apparently isn't too worried about offending the Tea Party folks with his most recent ad on behalf of Thad Cochran.
Right.
Before we get out of here in just a couple of minutes, I want to throw something out at you. You were here 3 weeks ago tonight, and it was like a rock concert. And because, you know, it's sort of a truism in politics that runoffs are determined by enthusiasm, energy, turnout, and you contrast what you saw here 3 weeks ago tonight with Thad Cochran, who didn't even come downstairs and thank his people. He sent the shadow senator, Greg Harper, out to do his bidding for him.
We should talk about that in a little bit. Yeah,
the shadow senator. But I just thought that was an amazing contrast in terms of enthusiasm. I mean, you heard like a smattering of golf claps.
To be honest, I mean, there were a few moments here a few weeks ago where people were, you know, a little bit worried.
Sure.
I mean, there was a couple of times where you know, the enthusiasm was pretty low. I mean, because the numbers were showing Cochran ahead.
Right.
But then as more you know, pro McDaniel counties came in towards the end there, I mean, this place turned into, I mean, the rock concert, I think, undersells it. I mean, it went insane. It was insane here. The level of energy was through the roof. People were so ecstatic. Well, it still went to a runoff. You know, yes, Senator McDaniel had the guts to go and address his supporters. And we'll see if Senator Cochran shows up tonight, win or lose. We'll see what he does.
Yeah, we'll see what he does.
I think that's a very interesting thing to watch for.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And you know, that I was just thinking from the enthusiasm angle. You know, that the Cochran folks couldn't have been too fired up to see that their senator couldn't even come downstairs. And maybe that's part of the reason why they're redoubling their efforts seeking for non-traditional Republican primary runoff voters.
Well, yeah, and that's what it all comes down to. Do the Democrats show up and save Thad Cochran, or do they not show up today? We'll find out in a very short time as the returns start trickling in.
Looking for walking around money and Democrat turnout to save his political life. That's kind of what we've got going from Thad Cochran. We're going to step aside here in a moment so we can show you some more of what the Tea Party Patriots and grassroots conservatives have been doing in Mississippi. In a few minutes, we'll try and get on one of State Senator McDaniel's biggest supporters, Senator Tony Smith. So we'll be back in just a second.
Welcome back. I'm Matthew Boyle. I'm a Breitbart News reporter, and I'm here with the Breitbart News and Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund live broadcast here from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at the State Senator Chris McDaniel Victory Party here tonight. at which, this is the last stage in the runoff between him and Senator Thad Cochran. And I'm joined right now by State Senator Tony Smith, who serves in the State Senate with Chris McDaniel. And Senator, it's great to have you here. And this has been one heck of a ride. And can you kind of what if there was a single moment out there throughout this whole campaign that was like, crystallized how big of a deal this is, what would it be for you? What do you think?
I think for me, when I realized that this is really for the very heart of our party, for the people of our state, our true conservative values that we hold dear in Mississippi, and it's seeing that we're having to fight the establishment for our beliefs has really amazed me a little bit. I don't look at them as my enemy. I hope that when this is over, that we'll be able to come together, unite, and make sure that we have a strong Republican at the U.S. Senate.
So you served in the State Senate with Chris McDaniel for some time now. Can you kind of, give for viewers out there, what is he like as a person? How hard is he going to fight if he gets elected to the U.S. Senate tonight?
Well, I've been elected for 3 years. Senator McDaniel was the first senator to call me after my election, and he reached out to me, invited me to come visit with him. And once we got to Jackson in the first session, he sort of brought us in and he really helped us learn the ropes. And what I've seen, especially when it came to Medicaid expansion, man, Chris is a fighter. He don't walk around like he's ready to punch you or anything like that. But as far as just standing on that floor, when he speaks, you better listen because Chris has his facts. And I believe he'll carry that same intensity, that same fight that he has to Washington. And it's going to be exciting to see him fighting for Mississippi.
And so, if he, as we're waiting for returns to come in tonight, if you think Washington's trembling right now? Are they worried that this guy's going to be on his way up there on behalf of Mississippi?
I don't know if they're trembling, but I do know that they have to deal with Chris. And, I've heard him on the stump speech saying that, he's going to partner with the Ted Cruzes and the Paul Rand and the Mike Lees. That's sending more people up to D.C. And I got to think that these guys up there, they got to start listening. There's a move across this nation that says enough is enough. We're taxed too much. We have too much government regulation. And it seems like the federal government's just ramming stuff down our throat on the state level. And we've got to stop it. And the only way we can do that is we're going to start here in Mississippi. And we're going to send Chris. And then I hope these other states that are about to come are going to step up and be bold. And I think that's what this election's about. It's saying, hey, it may not be the most popular thing, but if your message is right, the people will come to war with you. And that's what we've had in Mississippi. It's been a strong battle. And so I'm excited to be a part of this.
And now, the one thing that's been pretty, upsetting, I think, about this campaign is that, it's been one of the most brutal campaigns that we've seen in a long time from, essentially all the rhetoric and the establishment attacks. And, one of the things that I would say, and we put this out there in a story on Breitbart the other, a week or so ago, was the voicemail that somebody left for you, which was, I put it under the headline, the most insane story of the Mississippi primary. Can you kind of, what's your take on the negativity that we've seen from the establishment throughout this whole fight?
That phone call that I received was out of the blue. I had no idea who this person was. I was actually at my restaurant working. And, to get a call like that for someone to threaten me, that they're going to come down and, do what that video or the audio said. Right. I was appalled by that. I'm like, are you kidding me? So for me being relatively new in the political realm, right. I hadn't experienced that. And I know Chris as a personal friend, and I know the stuff that's been thrown out there. They've thrown a lot of stuff that I know that is not even close to being true. Now, I will say, too, Thad Cochran's been a great ambassador for the state of Mississippi, and there's stuff that's been said about Cochran that I would say is not fully true, too. But I think from Chris's mouth, he's been straight up. He's debated the record. And I think the record on all of us, that's who we are. And so those are totally fair. And so I hope that once this election is over tonight, we're going to have to come back. We're going to have to be friends. Our ultimate goal is to move the conservative movement in our state and take that to D.C.
One of the things that's been most intriguing to me about this whole race, and this is the reason why Breitbart sent me down here to spend so much time, it's the reason why we're doing this broadcast tonight with Tea Party Patriots, is because of the grassroots level energy in Mississippi. I think it's caught everybody around the country by surprise. I don't think anybody expected, little old Mississippi to be there ready to fight. It's really proven itself to be, this is one of the things that Chris says, one of the most conservative states in the union, and the power really comes from the people or the voters around the state. What do you think about that moving forward? Do you think that the grassroots is only going to get stronger? Is it going to get bolder? Are there more of these, establishment Republicans in danger moving forward?
I would think so. They dismissed Chris when he announced his candidacy. He'll never beat Thad Cochran. But the people of our state spoke pretty strong 3 weeks ago. He had 156,000 votes roughly. 1,400 more than I think Senator Cochran. So I think that movement. I've never seen anything like this in our state, and it's new for our state because we've never had Republican primaries really. It's always been the Republicans versus the Democrat, and we've always had one Republican candidate or nominee, and so we're moving into something new because now all of our positions are held by Republicans pretty much. So I think we're going to see these challenges, and we've got to learn that this isn't a hate relationship. It's about putting your ideology out there, your vision. And we're selling that. And if people want to buy into Chris's vision, they need to support him. And I think that's what we've seen. And so it's pretty exciting to see this great movement in our state.
And, what are, moving forward here throughout the night, what are some of the counties that you're looking for? If you can give us some specifics on that or some insight into where to look on the returns as they start trickling in.
Well, I think for me, of course, we look at my Senate district. So I've got Pearl River County, parts of Stone County, Harrison, Jackson counties. Those counties went overwhelmingly. Pearl River County, we delivered around almost 67% of our county voted for Chris. Stone County was 51%. Jackson County, I forget what the percentage was, but it was a slim margin there. My district, those areas that I represent, were very strong for him. So, of course, the larger counties, Harrison County, Jackson County, Rankin, DeSoto County is going to be big. It's going to be interesting, especially with this crossover playing into it. If it were a straight up Republican primary like
what do you think about that? What do you think about Senator Cochran? This guy's been in Washington for 42 years, 6 in the House and then 36 in the U.S. Senate as a Republican, and he is literally turning to the Democrats for help. What do you make of that? Does that show who he really is? Or?
Well, I think it's sad that his campaign has gone to those levels. This is a Republican primary. This is set up for people who believe in our values. And to go outside that realm and to bring in Democrats to try to sway that vote, I find that appalling. And I think that's bad for us as a party to allow that. I've heard radio interviews today. I've heard voice recordings. I've read some of the things going on around the state. They're running on this campaign that we're going to lose our free and reduced lunches, our SNAP benefits, welfare. We've heard the argument we're going to lose Ingalls Shipyard, Stennis Space Center. We know better than that. There's no one person in government that can cause any state to lose all that. So, it's
really
funny
amazing. Because at the same time they're running the Cochran team is running against Senator McDaniel on the message that while he supposedly can end all of these things, but that he can't go up there and have any clout at all. The whole message seems conflicting.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 for them. They've said he's going to be weak as a freshman senator. He won't be able to accomplish anything. Then on the other hand, they say, well, if we send him up there, he's going to cut the Department of Education. We're going to lose $800 million to our state. We're going to lose all this welfare benefits. Well, who is Chris McDaniel? What I can tell you is that Chris McDaniel is going to go and he's going to fight for conservative values. He's going to look for the waste that we have in government. And you know what? I agree with him with the Department of Education. I was a former school board member. I know all these grants would come down with these strings attached, and you got to spend it the way they want you to instead of maybe doing a class or spending it in the way that's best suited for that local school district. So yeah, I'm with Chris McDaniel. I believe in the vision that he's laid out. I'm not sure what Senator Cochran's vision's been. All I've heard is we're going to continue to spend money. Well, we're $17.5 trillion in debt. I don't know where we're going to do that. I've got 2 grandchildren. I'm tired of us passing the buck. It's time for us to stand up today, take responsibility for what has happened, and let's pay the price right now so my kids have a future in this country.
All right, well, we are going to cut back to another video for our supporters here. And so let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes with another guest and back with Kevin.